Hey everyone, welcome back to K-Korner, the channel where we dive into the wild world of entitled people and their unbelievable stories. Hope you enjoy it, and without further ado, let's go. My mother-in-law is not a wealthy woman. She had a plan with her insurance where she could have $10 loan at the drop of a hat for medical purposes. I'm not sure the details beyond that interest rate or payback plan details. My sister-in-law was in a toxic relationship where her and her boyfriend would be drunk 20 years a day. They got into a few domestic fights. One where she had an open wound to her lower back, superficial 2-3 keen laceration, which looked to be caused by glass or a small sharp object. Another fight that caused him to have a broken nose and black eye. We attempted to intervene between the two, but they'd never give a full story. We'd be there during police reports to try to pull more information out, but the stories would be, he tripped down the stairs, or I stood up into a piece of glass. We spoke individually with them about getting TROs, but neither pursued one until their relationship finally ended. They did finally leave each other after she cheated on him for the second time. 2 months after their relationship ended, my sister-in-law went to her mom and told her she needs an emergency chest surgery because of an injury sustained during her relationship with her ex. She wanted her mom to pay for it with the medical loan, and she'd pay her back over time. Her mom called me. I work in the healthcare field, and so family call me for almost anything medical related, to ask about what type of surgery she'd possibly need. I looked up the surgeon and saw that he was a local plastic surgeon who did mostly breast augmentations and lifts. I told my mother-in-law to find out the name of the surgery, but my sister-in-law refused to name it. I told my mother-in-law to not give her the money without knowing what it was for. She gave her the $10K. My sister-in-law got a breast augmentation. She literally got fired her first day back to work because she talked back to her boss. She hadn't informed them that she was getting a medical procedure done. When the boss asked her to hand out food trays at an event, she said to him, "I can't do that." "Can't you see I just got a boob job?" She later moved out of state and got another job. She has not paid my mother-in-law a single penny. My mother-in-law took money out against the house to pay for it. It's been 6 years since the surgery. Fortunately, my mother-in-law has stopped communicating with her daughter and therefore has stopped enabling her as well. I really apologize for the length of this post, but writing down all the details took way longer than I thought. And this situation was downright crazy. I never thought my sister would do something like this. Not too long ago, I, 23 male, posted an AIDA for advice because my parents and sister were angry at me for regularly eating in a hospital cafeteria because it's close to my work. I enjoy the peace and quiet there on the days I do show up to eat. But this situation escalated so radically that I can't believe something so dumb actually happened. My sister did the pettiest thing she's ever done to me. And for completely undeserved reasons too. When my sister found out I was eating at the hospital cafeteria, she went off on me over how that food is just for people who are at the hospital because they need to be. We ended up in a big argument about it in which I told her it wasn't like I was taking food from the mouths of patients. Then she went to our parents to get them on her side like always. And they immediately sided with her just like I thought they would. They backed her up on how the hospital cafeteria was not a place to go eating casually. And we had a big argument. They spent days hounding me and telling me I was wrong and demanding I stop. So I went to Reddit, and here I learned that not only was I not doing anything wrong, but it's a very common thing for people to go eat at hospital cafeterias just because they like it. I hoped the situation would just fade away. But a few days later, my sister called me asking if I had stopped eating at the hospital. I said no. And then it started all over again. My parents then called me fuming and acting like I was supposed to stop going because they said so. I reminded them that I don't live under their roof anymore. And this is exactly the kind of reason why I moved out. They take my sister's side in almost everything. They huffed and puffed about it. This time the fight didn't stay at home, though. Other relatives found out because my sister tried to broaden her support. She was so dead set on enforcing her will upon me that she went looking for help from other relatives. But our parents were the only ones on her side. And my uncle personally admonished my parents and her over the phone for it once I told him what actually happened. He told them they were only siding with my sister because she's their favorite. and they're terrible parents for ever playing favorites to begin with. Then cousin went to eat with me at that hospital cafeteria and said he'd like to go there once a week too, as he also works nearby and bicycles everywhere. We've run into each other at lunch there once already since then. He was actually rather pleased to find out the food was made healthier than most other places. He's a bit of a picky eater. So this place is kind of like his new lunch hangout. And my sister got even angrier after finding out there were other people in the family eating at the hospital now too. Once outed, my parents backed down due to embarrassment. They apologized to me and gave me some malarkey that they honestly thought eating at a hospital was weird and that they felt like they just needed to defend my sister. I told them they'd been placating my sister for so long that it's all they do whenever she starts something with anyone. She's been treating me like a condescending control freak and a bully since we were teenagers, even though I'm older. And they just kept enabling that, but I won't put up with it anymore. My parents ended up conceding and apologized. Then they made my sister apologize to me too. And I could tell she hated every second of it because she tried to speak through her teeth at first. Later on, my parents invited me to dinner as another form of apology. But it felt more like a show to look good to the rest of the family, because they told everyone about it before it even happened. The dinner was great, I can't deny. My parents had cooked a turkey, arguably one of my favorite things to eat. I love the drumsticks slathered with gravy. Yeah, I'm kinda a pig when I eat them. But I can't help it. My sister always thought it hilarious, and was one of the few things I didn't mind her laughing about. So I thought nothing of why she was so giggly at dinner. Later, after the family dinner, I noticed that my bike was missing. I parked it in the backyard out of sight, but it was just gone. I freaked out because it's my only mode of transportation. My parents did panic a bit with me, but my sister seemed just the opposite. She actually looked happy and was still giggling. I immediately suspected her and she played innocent. She even gave the, "I can't believe you'd think I'd do something like that" line. I already knew she's extremely petty, but this was a whole new level of it for her. So I said that I was going to go over to the neighbor because I know they have cameras and they'd have seen what happened. And then I'd call the cops. My sister suddenly looked panicked, and I got mad and said I knew it was her, and demanded my bike back. She started crying and saying she didn't do anything. And our parents were immediately taking her side while scolding me for daring to accuse her. So I had enough and said I was going to the neighbors to ask to check their cameras. And then I'd be calling police. My sister finally fessed up and called me to come back. The looks on our parents' faces after they'd just defended her were priceless. My sister said she was just so angry at me for having made her apologize for something she still believed she was right about. So she planned to have a couple of her friends to come and grab my bike during dinner. She said her friends were in a minivan with it just down the street. She then started saying that I couldn't call police on her anyway, because I'm her big brother. Our parents backed that up, too. But I pulled out my phone and started marching outside again. They ran after me with my sister begging and crying for me to stop. I called her a brat. And then I told my parents I couldn't believe they were still defending her when she was acting this way. Our parents finally hit their enabling limit with her and told her to make her friends bring my bike back immediately. She got on her phone while sniffling and called her friends up. But then she suddenly ran into her room to talk to them. I couldn't hear a thing she said through the door because it was all in whispers. And our parents looked very worried too. My sister would never have willingly admitted she had my bike stolen. She just kept sobbing that it was only a prank over and over again. And she also kept using the excuse that it's just a cheap bike anyway. I bought it used some months ago for $50. But it's in great shape. And it's my main mode of transportation. My sister kept looking at our parents to back her up. And that time, they just couldn't. So she just slumped down in a chair, hugging her knees and waiting with the rest of us. My sister looked increasingly freaked out the longer her friends took to bring my bike back and was repeatedly texting them. Even though my sister said her friends were just down the street, it took them roughly an hour to bring my bike back. They finally pulled up in the minivan with my bike shoved in the back, and it was completely soaked and all muddy, like it'd just been pulled out of a wet, muddy ditch. The bike is a 700C, so it's too tall for either of them to ride. So they just drove right up and stole the bike by dragging it into the van as fast as they could before taking off. I say they stole it because I was almost certain in the moment my sister had told them to dispose of my bike. Had I not pointed out the neighbors have cameras, I might have gotten it back. When her friends did finally arrive, their legs were all muddy and wet, nearly up to their knees. They both begged me not report them to police for taking the bike. I asked while recording them to tell me the truth and pointed out the neighbors have cameras. Did my sister want them to get rid of my bike? They broke down and said yes, my sister wanted them to take the bike and dump it in a pond a few miles away. And they had to go back and get it when they realized they were caught. My bike had been near completely submerged in muddy water. Thankfully, I didn't have many added accessories on it other than a detachable headlight and my water bottle. But the water bottle was missing. I wasn't surprised by what my sister's friends told me, and I had them tell our parents too. They laid into my sister till she was bawling on the floor, kicking and pounding like a toddler. I had never seen my sister act that way since she actually was a toddler, and I found it mortifying she was still like this on the inside. Then she shut herself in her room. Her friends were banned from ever coming to my parents' house again. Then my sister was forced to come out of her room by her mother and make another big apology to me. Our father then forced her to wash and oil my bike from stem to stern under his supervision while I took apart the headlight and cleaned it out to dry it. By the time my sister was done, it was dark outside. She glared at me like I was the devil when she came back in the house. But our parents shut her attitude right down and said they've never been more embarrassed by her in their lives. She went back to crying in her room. I had a very frank discussion with my parents about my sister's childlike behavior and how it stemmed from their spoiling and enabling. I said I couldn't believe I had to be the voice of reason. But the fact that she was on the floor crying like a toddler, kicking and pounding, showed that she's still mentally a child because of them. And they kept making me the scapegoat when she screwed up, so she barely knows any sense of accountability. For once, they didn't argue with me about it. And then my father silently drove me and my bike back to my apartment with his SUV. He also gave me some money to replace my bike's missing water bottle before we parted. My sister and her clique used to harass me a fair bit whenever we ran into each other. They made fun of me as a group whenever possible, and I usually just ignored them because they bored me. And that really seemed to tick them off. But after the bike incident, I got sent numerous messages from numbers I didn't know cussing me out for making my sister cry over a silly prank. Knowing her, my sister probably fed everyone she knew a very different story on what happened. I texted lengthy replies of what actually happened, and even stated I have recordings of her friends admitting the truth. Some people at my sister's college found out what actually went down. Maybe from my texts, maybe her friends spilled the beans. But it embarrassed my sister so much she came home having a crying tantrum about how people there were calling her and her friends bees and a bike thieves. I may not have gone to college, but I know students who need them are very protective of their bike. A lot of them live on shoestring budgets after all. My sister said someone even joked that they shouldn't leave a bike around her because it might just disappear if she had to apologize to anyone. My sister ended up so upset that she refused to leave her room for 3 days to have her pity party. My parents called me up to try and turn everything on me again. I reminded them about the discussion we had days before, and that they needed to stop babying her and let her deal with the repercussions of her own actions. If she fails her classes again, it's because she's not trying like she should be. Then I went off on them, how we're just looking for someone to blame to make her feel better. She made the problem, not me. And I wasn't going to be the one they make the scapegoat anymore. My sister is an adult, and she needs to act like it. They sounded defeated and then apologized before ending the call. Looks like they were genuinely hoping I'd just sit back and take the blame so my sister would get better. But I never will again. Now my parents are trying to pretend this all never happened, and my sister, as well as her clique, are avoiding me at all costs, which I suppose is fine with me, because I don't want any more drama. But the next time something like this happens, I won't take it from them. A little context before we dive in. I work in the auto industry, specifically in the parts department of a dealership. This means I have a standard uniform: slacks, shoes, a polo shirt, and a jacket in the automaker's colors with their name embroidered on the left chest. At the time of this incident, I worked for an auto manufacturer whose logo is a big T and an oval. Internally, they referred to it as the sombrero. This meant my polo shirt was black with red sides, a prominent red logo, and the dealer's name embroidered on it. So here's what happened back in March. I had just finished my late shift, and the dealership I was with at the time closed at 7. On my way home, I made a stop at Big Mart, which used to have a smiley logo, and where employees wear blue vests. I was there to grab some groceries for dinner and pick up flowers for my dad, along with supplies to make a cake for my mom's birthday. The first 2 weeks of March hold a lot of significance for our family. When I'm shopping, I usually pop in my Bluetooth earbuds. It helps me avoid unwanted interactions and keeps those pushy salespeople peddling cable, internet, and power services at bay. The headphones I had at that time were a pair of Bluetooth earbuds with a cord connecting the two and an inline controller on the right side. This detail becomes relevant later. Now, I'm in the store, and it's about 7:25 p.m. I've got my earbuds in, and I'm browsing the baking aisle, searching for castor sugar. Our mart of walls does carry it, and I notice someone to my right. Initially, I don't think much of it. It's a regular evening for them. Finally, I settle on some sugar and reach out for it. That's when I feel a sharp pain in my ears, followed by someone yelling at me. I turn around and shout, "What the hell?" I find myself face to face with a woman around 40, roughly my height, 5'10". She's dressed quite smartly, wearing high-heeled boots, leggings, an expensive-looking coat, and has shoulder-length hair. Her earrings look painfully heavy. She's yelling at me and holding my headphones, which she had grabbed and yanked out to get my attention because I couldn't hear her. She starts telling me off, saying it's unprofessional to wear headphones while working, and questions my response. I snap back, making it clear that I don't work there, and I demand my earbuds back. She responds, convinced that I do work there because of how I'm dressed, and she labels me as lazy. She then looks at my headphones with a smirk and says, "You won't be needing these." She proceeds to throw them on the ground and starts stomping on them. I'm furious and start shouting, asking her what makes her think I work there. I point at the logo on my shirt and call her out. At this point, a crowd is gathered at both ends of the aisle, curious about the commotion. It seems an employee had overheard something and called a manager or security. A person in a white business shirt with a company lanyard around their neck heads down the aisle to intervene and figure out what's happening. The woman immediately directs her anger at him, berating the store's supposed laziness and unprofessionalism. She insists on speaking with corporate. The manager turns to me, puzzled, and starts questioning why I didn't assist her. As he stares at my shirt, he asks, "You don't work here, do you?" I quickly clarify, "No, I work up the road." "I'm just here for some shopping, and this person attacked me." He apologizes for the confusion and inquires if she physically hurt me. I respond, "Just my ears," when she yanked out the earbuds and then stomped on them. She, however, begins snarling, calling me a liar, a POS, piece of crap, and insists I should be fired. The manager then picks up my damaged headphones and tells her that he disapproves of misuse in his store, adding that the authorities are already on their way, with the police station being about 1.5 miles from the store. He asked me to check my headphones to see if they work, and, unsurprisingly, they don't. When she yanked the controller, it must have damaged the wires, causing the right one to cut in and out. I mention this, and we've now been escorted to the front of the store by customer service. As we reach the front, 2 police officers are standing by the counter. They proceed to take statements from both of us, with her wildly gesticulating as she gives her account of the event. One of the officers goes to the store manager to review the security footage. During this wait, she keeps insisting that I'll get into significant trouble, that she'll be proven right, and she hopes they lead me off in handcuffs. The officer with us tells her to remain quiet until they're finished. The manager and the officer return after a few minutes, and the officer asks me, "Would you like to press charges?" She immediately chimes in, saying, "Yes, please, officer. I don't want someone like this in public." To her surprise, the officer clarifies that he was actually addressing me. I affirm my desire to press charges as my ears still hurt and my earbuds were broken. She protests, coughing and sputtering like my old classic car on a cold morning, whining that she's the victim. The officers ask me to confirm the cost of the headphones when I bought them new, as she will be required to reimburse me. I thank the Big Blue Electronics store, where I made the original purchase online, for the account records. In the end, she had to reimburse me the $100 that the earbuds had cost me when they were new. I used this to purchase a new pair of clipped McLaren Edition 5 earbuds. They escorted her out of the store and, as an apology, gave me the flowers from my father's gravesite and a cake for my mom's birthday. However, the incident didn't end there. She had called the dealership I worked for because their name was embroidered on my shirt. She complained about me and the trouble I caused. They called me into the owner's office to reprimand me, emphasizing that I'd created unnecessary drama that made the dealership look bad. I wasn't fired, but that dealership wasn't a great place to work, and I left about 5 months later. I've since changed dealerships to one under the big blue oval. Enjoying the stories yet? If you do, please subscribe, like, and comment. Aside from seeing my parents, I was looking forward to having a break from regional Queensland. I had hoped to watch the world go by at Cremorne Point with my baby one day, or maybe grab a burger at whatever new joint my youngest brother had found, and maybe do some shopping. Well, I will be doing none of that, as no one under the age of 55 is insured to drive my parents' car, making me somewhat housebound. That's fine. I should have asked before coming and maybe hired a car myself, so I'll take the L on that one. I figured that my daughter and I could just spend some quality time with my family at home instead. Or maybe that would have been possible if my parents didn't insist on watching every single damn NRL game every single damn night. And we can't even be in the same room as them while they do that because their 2 dogs cannot possibly rough it outside. So for my daughter to have a little kick around on her play gym, she and I need to relegate ourselves into a separate room. I was feeling a little low about all of this until today, Mother's Day, my first one ever. And now I feel miserable and full of regret for having come at all. My mother and my Nana were gifted with bottles of wine and flowers. I received nothing. My daughter, however, received so many gifts you would have thought it was her first birthday. I was forgotten and told, "Oh, I didn't even realize it was your first Mother's Day." Despite this, I was determined to remain in good spirit. So I put my daughter in her prom so that she'd have a seat while she watched some Disney and I could get myself a glass of wine. While strapping her in, my brother, who lives 5 minutes away and who heard me have a full conversation with my mom about Disney for baby and wine for me, decided that the basketball was more important, and I was met with, "Oh, maybe your baby will like basketball instead. She can watch Disney tomorrow." As if we are moving in permanently with them and not just here for a week. I've had zero control of that TV since arriving 4 days ago, and this was the one time I wanted to give her just a little screen time, and she loves it every now and again too. Listening to her laugh and gurgle at the Jungle Book is the cutest thing in the world. And she was denied of that one small luxury before the real bullshit of the day commenced. After the extended family arrived, they played every new mother's favorite game of Pass the Baby. But as lunch was served, the new favorite toy was forgotten on her playmat, only to be discovered by my 4-year-old cousin, not being watched by my aunt, who immediately dropped an iPad on her head. I'd barely eaten any lunch when I had to go and rescue her. It had been 3 hours and I'd barely had time to eat, use the toilet, or have a sip of water because I was so busy fussing over my baby. During this time, barely anyone aside from a brother and aunt spoke to me. Everyone else had a lovely time drinking champagne and catching up as if it was their first time seeing family in 2 years. Once everyone had left and Gnarl went back on, I tended to my daughter and got her ready for bed. Once she was down for the evening, I came into the kitchen to realize that there would be no chance of dinner as everyone else in the house had decided that they had enough food at lunch. At this point, I confronted everyone remaining and was met with the most absolutely obtuse response from my father, who sarcastically told me that he'd just cancel my brother's birthday dinner to make up for everything. After pointing this out to him, he declared that he felt sick and left for bed. My mom stayed up with me and got me some wine, which was nice, but it doesn't unscrew my first Mother's Day, and it doesn't drop an iPad on my daughter's head. So my lesson has been learned. I will never be coming back here, and I will never be spending another event with this side of the family ever again. If they want to see their granddaughter or me again, they can come out to the sticks in Queensland. This started a few years ago. After I got ghosted by my ex, I decided to switch careers and took the proposal of my brother to work for one of his friends in an organic grocery store in my area. I was 22-ish at the time, maybe 20, one turning 22. But anyways, I started working in the fruits and vegetables aisle. Despite having a crazy director, I liked my job and my department manager. After a few months, I got the title of third key, which is basically I'm the assistant manager when the assistant is gone. Then, they decided to hire a new customer service manager that I will call Linda. That woman was crazy. While I was 23 at the time, she was only 20 acting like she owned the world. To give you an idea, in the span of 8 months being here, she got 11 employees fired for stupid reasons. And since our director at the time was just as crazy, it was easier for her to get her way. Also, when I say stupid reasons, I'll give you a few examples. Benji got fired because he was talking too loud in the break room, and it was disturbing her peace and supposedly making her harder to rest to come back fully ready to finish her shift. Marie got fired because she had to take off work to go to a relative's funeral and couldn't give her 2 weeks' notice. Rose got fired because she was getting too old to do her job properly, and it was ruining the pace of the team's work, which is bees. I've never seen someone cut veggies and fruits as fast as her. And I could go on. Yes, some of them could have been able to be protested against and even file a complaint against her. Mind you, outside of Rose, everybody was too young to just wanting to fight for a grocery store job. Even Rose just decided to take her retirement earlier and pissed off the work world. Anyways, she took it too far when she tried to mess with me. To give you the context, we had a huge special on lemons, and sometimes those fruits can get rotten, and you don't notice it because there's no smell. The only way you'd know is by going through the several small boxes of like 10-ish lemons and look at them all one by one, which I did regularly, but hey, I'm not a robot. Sometimes some of them slipped out of my eye. I was leaving the back store with more boxes when I saw Linda with a customer that seemed more than pissed. So I go see both of them because, mind you, she has a lemon box and I work in the fruits department. So it's kind of my job to help if I can. That's when I asked her, "Hey Linda, do you need help with the lemons?" And right away she told me, "Piss off, I don't need your help, I already spoke to your manager. Go do your job for once." My face was literally like this as I went to my department. Even the pissed customer did a bombastic side eyes. A few minutes later, I go back to the back store to fulfill the missing products, and my manager pulls me aside. "Hey up, stay out of Linda's business." I can't protect you all the time for talking back. I stopped him right away asking, what does he mean? Because as soon as she told me to piss off, I did piss off. He looked at me surprised and said he'd come back to me with it, but only tomorrow because he's finishing his shift and for some personal reason. He can't stay longer to solve the issue. Since Linda was the manager on guard that night, he told me to stay in the back as much as possible to stay in her good graces. That's what I did. 1 hour after my manager left, I heard my name being called in the front office, shared by the customer service manager and director. Big what F. I go in the front, and all of my colleagues are looking at me like I'm a prisoner going to their death sentence. Mind you, I know my laws and my rights. I might be young, but as soon as I got called, I started reciting in my head the main laws and rights she has to respect. I open the door's office, and Linda is fuming. And she is alone. She asks me to close the door, and I tell her no, it is my right to have someone in the room with us for this talk. I am not comfortable being alone with you. She starts freaking out and starts to speak louder, on the verge of screaming. "Linda, this room is recorded 24/7 and the customers can hear you talking to me like that. Lower your tone and find a witness to be in the room or I'll go back to work." She stands up to look outside the office and sees that indeed there's a line in front of the cash looking to the office's direction. She takes a few deep breaths and calls Gabrielle, who takes care of the finances of the store, so she can be a witness. From the moment Gab got into the room, she seemed like she wanted to get away. So do I. Gabe took a seat in the back and Linda starts her whole speech. I'll be paraphrasing because the meeting took almost an hour. "L, you know why I brought you here, right?" "L, not really. I've been in the back store minding my business." "Why? Why?" "L, well, you disrespected my authority in front of a customer, and that's a big no-no for the company." "Oop, for the company or for you?" "L, up, this is not the topic. You shouldn't be disrespecting authority in front of customers. It makes the managers look bad." I was honestly just trying to help because you had a box of products from my department. I just wanted to help because the customer looked pissed and I didn't want him to ruin your fragile mood." "L, my fragile mood. Are you effing serious?" "Oh, Linda, we are being recorded and we have a witness. I'm asking you to stay polite and not scream, or I will file a complaint against you." "L, or Threatening me? Oh, no. I am stating my rights and making you aware of where your attitude will lead you. I won't accept being talked like that by someone that ain't even my manager. Oh, okay, let me remind you where your position stands in this business. That bitch started to draw a triangle, put her name at the tippity top and mine at the bottom. I didn't even let her finish what she had to say. I stormed off the office, went into the employees' lockers, took my stuff, and headed out. Linda ran after me, yelling like a psycho, "You can't leave like that. You're still scheduled for the close." I stopped on my steps, making Linda almost run into me, and said with the most blank expression I could have, "Linda, you crossed the line, and since you're so good at your job, close my department for me, I will be filing a complaint against you." And left the workplace. Next morning, I came to work as usual and had to see my manager and the director. I explained them the whole situation and showed the papers I was about to send to file a complaint against Linda. Also, this dumb bitch didn't even throw her paramedic in the trash. It was still on display when the director came into work and asked me what it was. I asked her to look at the cameras, put the sound on, and listen to the whole meeting. We watched it to my director's horror, and who came into work in the middle of our screening time. Linda. She came into the office, and Linda being a pock turned white as a ghost. I've never seen her being so pale. "Well, what are you doing?" The director asked Linda to sit down, and we watched again the video. Mind you, it took us 1 full hour to watch because she was in a never-ending power trip. She used to be smart when she was bullying and making stories about past employees, doing it far from the cameras and usually using the other office that doesn't have cameras or a microphone, but she wasn't with me. I guess she got comfortable or whatever, but tech made on her ass. My director said I could go back to work with my manager, that she would take care of the rest. 2 weeks later, Linda still had her job, but our director resigned from her job right away. Which was hella weird, but whatever. We got a new director, she was a total sweetheart, and she noticed Linda's crazy power trips right away. She decided to launch an intern investigation, but sadly, all the employees Linda bullied were fired. There was only me and my little complaint waiting to be served. When Nancy, our new director, came to me asking if I knew anything about Linda, I gave her the file, the timestamps of the videotape, all the employees she fired for stupid reasons with the old director, and also phone numbers of those employees. Flash forward 2 weeks later, Linda left work earlier, bawling her eyes out, yelling how Nancy was a bitch and didn't deserve her job. How she always came in earlier, put in the work and yada yada. Nancy waited a few more days before asking me to come into the office, and again, I'll be paraphrasing because a lot have been said. "And, hi op, don't worry, you're not in any trouble. I just saw your CV and noticed you've had a lot of experience in customer service." "Ope. Yes, I used to be a cashier for almost 5 years. It was my first job." "Why? Why?" "And I've seen your file, your CV, and how you managed the conversation with Linda. We are actually looking for a new customer service manager since Linda had been let go." "Ope. What about my actual position?" It's easier to find a fruits and vegetables commis than it is to find a competent service manager. As you experienced. I ended up accepting the position and all my coworkers cheered for my raise. I don't want to brag, but I've always been the one to defend everybody in the place, making sure I'll keep my job in the process and following the laws and rights. A few months later, Linda came back to the store as a customer, and the look she had on her face when she saw me at the cash with the manager uniform was priceless. It was even more priceless when she asked me when I got the promotion and I told her the exact date, which matched her departure. "So, you got my position when I left?" I just nodded and asked if I could do anything more to help have a better experience in the store. She didn't answer to that and just left after paying her things. To this day, it's still one of my favorite moments to have been through. I'm not a petty person, but if I can ruin you in the process of me trying to defend my people, I'll be more than happy to do so. Last I've heard of Linda, she was working for the competitor, but never had any promotions. Happened today at work. I've been an intern at a hardware store since last week, so I'm still learning where things are located, and today was the day we received all deliveries and needed to restock the aisles quickly. We are 3 employees for 6 aisles, my tutor, another intern, and me, so my boss decided to hire interim workers to help restock the shelves. They do not work for our company. They're under their own company responsibility, and their job is just to restock. We wear red shirts with the company logo and name, and the interim workers wear casual clothes, just like any customer. So I'm with 2 interim restocking pieces when Karen shows up. She directly addresses an interim asking for something we don't even sell, a microwave. I step in to tell her as the interim turns to me, and she barks. She doesn't want that kid. I'm 21 but short, and with a face mask I look like 15. She asks again, this time angrily, but the poor interim doesn't know what to say, so I come between them, saying we don't sell microwaves. He doesn't work here. Please leave him. And she snaps. She starts yelling a kid should not interfere with adults by saying stupid things, and she wants to talk to my boss. Boss, who heard the screaming 2 aisles away and is coming to rescue us. I explain that Karen wants a microwave, and my boss explains again that we don't sell that. Karen is still screaming some nonsense, so my boss calls security, and they escort her outside. Now she came back an hour later and purposely looked for me. I saw her follow me, to insult me as I made her the bad person in the situation, and I should have just shut up and let the interim do his work, which wasn't talking to her. Unfortunately for her, my boss's boss, the owner, was there with me and escorted her outside again. This time she was banned from the store. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more captivating stories. Share your own experiences, opinions in the comments below, and let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay tuned for more epic tales.